You know, every developer has that one horror story. But this one has a price tag. We're going to dive into how one tiny coding mistake spiraled into an absolute disaster that cost a company a whole lot of money.
Yeah, $280,000. That is the actual cost we are talking about here. And this wasn't from some big market crash or a failed product launch. Nope. This was from a single, totally preventable coding error. So, how does something like this even happen? And, beyond the money, this was the human cost. Just imagine that feeling in the pit of your stomach, having to tell your team that the last 3 weeks of all their hard work, it's just gone. Poof. This is that moment where the panic really starts to set in.
Okay, so how did this whole mess unfold? Well, it all kicks off on a Friday evening, of course. A developer is working directly on the live production code. No safety net, nothing. Then, at 7:30 p.m., an experimental command goes horribly wrong and deletes the entire user table. And just like that, 50,000 user accounts and 3 weeks of code changes are gone. The team then had to spend their entire weekend, we're talking 40 hours straight, just trying to rebuild everything from memory. An absolute nightmare.
Now here's what's really interesting. The root cause wasn't that bad database command. I mean, yeah, that was bad, but it was just a symptom. The real problem, the thing that made this whole disaster possible, was this. They were coding without any kind of safety net, no version control whatsoever.
Does this look familiar to anyone? I think we've all been there at some point. When you don't have a real system, your project folder just descends into total chaos. You're saving copies of files, main_v2, main_final, just praying you remember which one is the actual final version. It's a mess. There's no history, no way to track what changed, and absolutely no way to go back if you mess up.
And this just illustrates the difference so perfectly. On the left, you've got pure chaos. You have no idea what's what, and if that current file breaks, you are in serious trouble. But on the right, with a tool like Git, every single change is a recorded, time-stamped event. It's a perfect, totally reliable history of your project. It's night and day.
So, the most important thing to realize is that this whole disaster had a pretty simple solution. Let's talk about Git. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like a time machine for your code.
See, every time you make what's called a commit, Git takes a snapshot of your entire project at that exact moment. It's literally like a save point in a video game. Made a huge mistake? No problem. Just load a previous save. Nothing you commit is ever truly lost.
But what if you want to try something a little risky? Like that experimental database change from our story. Well, that's where branching comes in. Think of it like creating a parallel universe for your code. You can go in there, you can experiment, break things, set things on fire, and it has absolutely zero effect on your stable main timeline.
And the workflow is just incredibly safe and simple. You start on your stable main branch. Then you create a new branch, your parallel universe, to work on a new feature. If your experiment turns out to be a total failure, who cares? You just delete that parallel universe, and the main timeline is completely untouched. And if it's a success, awesome. You just merge your masterpiece back into the main reality.
And this right here, this is the command that could have saved that team $280,000 and a weekend of absolute misery. Instead of panic, the developer could have just typed this one line and, in less than a second, boom, they'd be right back to the perfectly stable, working version of the code. The entire crisis just completely averted.
Okay, so Git gives you that all-important safety net. But what does that safety really enable? Speed. It's all about speed. Once you remove that fear of breaking things, you can start using some incredibly powerful tools like AI to accelerate your entire workflow. And the productivity gains here are just staggering. AI assistants like GitHub Copilot, which plug right into a Git-based workflow, can make developers over 50% faster. I mean, think about that. They handle all the boring boilerplate stuff, letting you focus on the creative problems, all while working safely inside your cozy feature branches. So it's clear that using Git is the solution. But just using it isn't quite enough. You have to use it well. So let's go over a few of the most common and most costly mistakes. We'll call them the deadly Git sins, and more importantly, how you can avoid them.
All right, the first and by far the most common sin is what I call the massive commit. This is when you work for days, or maybe even a whole week, and then you save all your changes in one giant, incomprehensible chunk. Just look at the difference here. On the left, you've got a single commit with a totally useless message, like add user stuff. If a bug is hiding somewhere in those thousands of lines of code, good luck finding it. It's a nightmare. But on the right, we have a series of small, logical commits. Each one tells a little story, it's easy for your team to review, and it can be undone individually if something goes wrong. So much better.
Okay, the next sin is maybe the most dangerous one, and it's exactly what caused that disaster we started with. It's working directly on the main branch, the live production-ready version of your code. It's like performing surgery on a patient while they're running a marathon.
The professional approach, the right way to do it, is to treat your main branch as sacred. It should always be stable and ready to go. All new work, every experiment, every bug fix happens on a separate feature branch. This isolates all the risk and ensures the core product never ever breaks.
Sin number 3 is all about communication. You have to remember, your code's history is a story that you're writing for your team and, honestly, for your future self. And vague commit messages just turn that story into absolute gibberish.
I mean, on the left, you have a history that tells you nothing. Messages like fix or updates. What does that even mean? 3 months from now, you'll have no idea what was fixed or why things changed. But on the right, using a simple convention, you could see the exact feature or fix just by glancing at it. This history is searchable, it's understandable, and it is incredibly valuable when you're trying to track down a bug months later.
So let's bring this all together. Let's see how all these principles build into a professional workflow. We've laid out the path from that costly, chaotic mistake all the way to the control and safety of a proper process. Let's summarize the key takeaways. All right, here are the core principles you need to remember. First, commit small and commit often. Second, a new task always means a new branch, no exceptions. Third, write commit messages that actually describe the change you made. Fourth, always pull the latest changes from your team before you push your own stuff, that way you don't overwrite their work. And finally, use a .gitignore file from the very beginning to keep secrets and junk files out of your project's history.
So here's the bottom line. Version control is so much more than just a tool for preventing disasters, it's really a tool for craftsmanship. It lets you build a clean, understandable, and professional history of your work. Your code's history is its story. The only question is, what story will you write?